Hello guys, we are back with another video. Today we're going to be unboxing the Zyber8, which is, I believe it's actually a closed sourced miner. I think they might have plans to open source it in the future, but this is probably comparable, I'd say, to the NerdQX++ in terms of hash rate. But today is just going to be an unboxing and setup guide for this. If you want to get one, there will be a link in the description. I think you can get 5% off of this. So the previous video we reviewed the bitaxe hex, and today we're going to be reviewing this Zyber8. So the bitaxe hex was open source. This one is currently closed, but it's still a Bitcoin solo miner. So this is going to produce around 6 terahash, something like that. So that's why I'm saying it's comparable to the NerdQX++. But let's actually open it up. If you saw the video a couple days ago, for the hex is going to be kind of the same thing that we're doing right now. So we just got to open up the box. So kind of the same thing as the bitaxe hex. We're going to take it out of here and show you everything that we get inside. I'm assuming it's going to be kind of the same thing that we saw previously. And let's get it out of the box and then we can show you what it looks like. It is kind of looking already the same as the bitaxe hex, but we'll do a comparison in a little bit. So this is what it looks like. Same kind of look that you have to the bitaxe hex that we have. So kind of with the same plexiglass and these, what they're called, stand-in or pins that actually hold it together. So I'd call them spacers, I guess. And this comes with kind of like a block on the bottom. If we turn it around here and just hold these parts, you can see that there is actually a fan on the bottom as well. I believe that that is just to cool some of the main chips underneath in there. So slightly bigger than the hex version in terms of the board and slightly more cooling solution. So what you have here is the fan and then the heatsink with some, what I'm assuming is copper rods as well here. Some spring pins inwards, the fans connected here, and then if we turn it upside down here, you can just see the recording, but you have the screen there, and then some voltage regulator, kind of, what would you call them, heat sinks on there, stuck onto there, and massive heatsink for the chips, and then a fan blowing in that way. They don't have one for the outlet, so I'm assuming that most of the heat is going to come out that way. And the screen is kind of the same screen that you'd see on a NerdQX++ or any NerdQX model. So this must put out a lot of heat if you need 2 fans, one fan for the bottom of it, one going across. The only thing is that this fan doesn't actually line up with where the heat sink is, so I'm assuming the chips are underneath here. This fan is more pointing up to this, which I can't really tell what that is, because this fan is clearly pulling air that way, so that way, and then this one is pulling air that way. So it's interesting to see the fan placement. We'll have to see what the temperatures are on this, because it's actually putting out a lot of hash rate. So as you can see there, that says Zyber8s, tiny chip hub there. It is backwards, but that doesn't really matter. And I like the fact that it comes all pre-assembled. So with the plexiglass here, you could take that off if you really wanted to, but there's not really much point in taking that off. It kind of just protects the first layer for dust and stuff like that. I'm assuming that it would also add to heat if you had plexiglass here and around it. So that would kind of turn into an ASIC miner if you kind of, let's just put it this way, if you plexiglassed the whole of this and then put a fan here, that would be kind of like an S9, something like that, where you have a one fan and then an outlet and an inlet fan that's pulling air in and out. But just looking down on it, that heatsink is pretty big. There's a bunch of buttons here, obviously power, I believe that's the power right there. And then you have the screen here, just a fan. I think that is a 60mm, but it looks to be by 40 instead of 20, just from looking at it. And then the one on the back here is 10mm, thickness, and maybe 100mm in the radius. So it also comes with, if you just move that to the side there, the power supply, which we see here. Now, one thing I want to note is that this, or kind of power plug-in, is different to what we normally see. So normally we see a 2 or 1 pin solution, but this is actually a 2-pin solution. If we get that to focus there, you can see the 2-pin solution there instead of either you have a USB or just one straight pin going downwards. For all the bitaxes, it's 1 pin. Nerd QX is 1 pin. The bitaxe hex is also 1 pin. The Avalon Nano that we have is a USB-C, but this is actually a 2-pin solution, which a lot of people, when they're working on, you know, different miners or trying to create their own one, they normally have this solution put in before they actually do the 1-pin solution. So in terms of the power supply as well, we have right here, you can see 12 volts, so that's good because we're probably going to upgrade the power supply soon, and 180 watts. So this can pull up to 180 watts, slightly bigger than the other power supply that we had. And it needs slightly more power just because of the amount of hash rate that this is actually outputting. So it might be different to what we're seeing on the AXOS. So there might be a little bit different of a setup. I'm assuming you do the same thing like an IP. You go through that, you put in your Wi-Fi SSID and then your password. But I think that the OS system is going to look a little bit different. And I haven't seen it, so this is the first time that I've actually seen a video on one of these. I haven't seen anybody else make a video on these, or at least I haven't been searching for them. But I'm sure there is some videos out there. But I know that the screen is also different as well. It has a different kind of display going on there. But yeah, first thing that we want to do is probably fire it up, check out the temperatures and the wattage. So this can only go in one configuration, so it's this way. So we have that plugged in there. We're gonna kind of make sure that there's no air going this way, so we can actually flow air through there and then out this way. But yeah, let's get it plugged in and let's turn it on. Okay, so you can see already you have the SSID already there. So it's the same process. You got to use your phone. This fan is very loud if you just heard it kick in. So we're going to have to place it in a different placement. But we're going to go through that and then we're going to head over to the computer and show you the AXOS, kind of what hash rates we're getting, what temperatures, and seeing if we can overclock it a little bit more. Just feeling it right now is very cool, but it's probably going to take a while to spin up, like you see with the Nerd QX++. So we'll maybe let it run for about 10 minutes and then we'll start going through and putting in the IP address for the pool, seeing what it hashes at and all of the specs that we have there. So let's head over to the computer now. So here we are on the dashboard. I thought that they were going to be using a different dashboard to AXOS, but it seems like they are using the AXOS, which is a modified version, I believe, because they actually say down here in the settings that you're using a current version that is coming from the Tiny Chip Hub's GitHub. So it's actually different to just the normal AXOS. We actually have a bunch of options here which we didn't have on other miners that you see here. So you have the enable overclock mode, which I believe is going to allow you to enter in different pool settings. And then you can select different running modes, so eco, normal, and performance. And then you can actually control both of the fans here. So you have fan speed for the first one, and that's the one on the top, and then the beneath fan speed of 75%. So they definitely made some adaptations to the OS here. We currently have it, or it came default at 75%, but if we put it to automatic and just save, I think the reason that there's two fans is because of the control of them, and that's the reason why you wouldn't want to put it on automatic fan control. But we'll just see kind of what it gives us on automatic. It doesn't really look like it's actually spinning up currently, but we already have a best difficulty of 153 million. So there you can see the power turning on. And it also lists the fan speed of the first one in RPM, but the beneath fan doesn't actually have an RPM, which is interesting to see. Currently the power draw is 120, 125 watts. That's what it averages out at. Input voltage is slightly below 12 volts. So I don't know if that's something that we need to address. It doesn't look too bad. The ASIC frequency is 600 megahertz and 1.25, so 1250 on the voltage. Temperature is kind of creeping up, but around 50 is probably going to creep up to, I want to say 55. And the voltage regulator is actually handling it pretty well. Hash rate looks to be good. The efficiency expected is around 20 joules per terahash, which is comparable, I guess, to a Supra or an Ultra, or maybe more comparable to an Ultra actually. So when it comes to settings, we can go to pool settings and actually put our pool in. So EU solo, let's copy that, paste that in there, paste that into there, and then the Stratum user is going to be our Bitcoin address, and we're going to leave the .zyber8 at the end, because in the last video we did actually not name anything, so it'd be nice to see if we're actually submitting shares and which miner is hitting the best shares based on their name. So we could set a fallback pool, but I don't think it really matters too much right now. So save and then restart, and then we can head over to our solo CK pool and see what we get. So hash rate is actually performing pretty well. Expected is 6, but it's at 6.5. It has hit up into 7 just in the time that we've been restarting it. So the potential overclocking for hash rate might be very high. Efficiency is obviously going to decrease as we start to overclock it as we go up. The shares, as I said, I don't know what above target is, but you guys can let me know in the comments. You might have already let me know, but we have also down here chip submit. So which chips are submitting what in terms of the shares. So I believe it is numbered based on what is submitting shares. And if we go over to the logs here, you can see the share difficulty, what it's set at 1000. So we're pretty regularly hitting shares onto the pool. And then we are at the pool now, so we can refresh it. And it hasn't shown up yet, so that's not good, but maybe we'll give it a little bit more. Currently our hash rate is dropped off because we've been unplugging miners to plug our newer ones in just to test them out. But it does say unnamed here, so if we click on that, it just says unnamed worker. So maybe you need to give it a little bit more before that actually catches on and updates. So let's let that run for a little bit, and in the meantime we can look at what we're seeing here is the Zyber8G. So we're currently using the Zyber8s, but this is a prototype test, and they've made some improvements on the heatsink. So you have a fan in the middle there, which is going to pull air through here and then push it through there. Interesting to see. Same power supply, same kind of everything that you see in there. I'm assuming a fan on the bottom as well. And the same sort of stilts that we have currently on ours. And then if you go across, you can see that the hash rate is actually very high. So expected 10 terahash. I don't know how many chips are actually under this. I'm assuming because it's called Zyber8, there's 8 chips underneath. But we might have to do a teardown, maybe. I don't really want to tear apart these because I'm not very familiar with the actual putting them back together, but we'll see. Going back to this, expected is 10 terahash, and then efficiency is slightly better. The power is over 200 watts, so it is getting a bit crazy in terms of the power, but still, people there, it might be a market out there for people that want a higher powered one that they can just all put together. I know that even with my miners that we have here, we're collecting quite a lot of them at a rapid rate, and we don't really know where to put them. We don't have enough power in the actual outlet to supply all of them at the same time. So we either need to get a power supply that will carry 12 volts for a bunch of miners, or we're going to have to start putting them in different rooms to kind of space out the power draw from all of them at the same time. So there will be a Zyber8G coming in the future, I'm assuming, but currently they're just using the Zyber8s, which we have here for display. So the ASIC temperature is actually staying pretty good. The fan speed is around 60%, so I'm assuming the overclocking can go way further than this. When we go to the actual overclocking, so if we enable overclock mode, it actually lets us do this without inspecting element, which is good. I'd like to see that on the hex version though, because the previous video we had the hex version, and that was with, I think, the most updated firmware, which doesn't let you inspect the element. But on here we can actually overclock it by clicking these up and down and then saving it. So we're definitely going to be doing an overclocking video on this and for the hex version, but let's just disable that for the minute. I don't know what the performance mode is. We don't currently have access to that, I don't believe. But the eco one is probably the most efficient, and then normal is probably what we're running at now, unless we're running at performance and then we click normal. So yeah, that's kind of what my theory was. So we're running at the performance mode, but we could go into normal or eco mode like we're seeing here. Click save and then restart, I believe. So let's go back. I think that's already saved down to eco mode. So yeah, expected is 5 terahash and a better efficiency basically. If we just refresh the pool right here, you can see we are getting the hash rate there. Obviously it takes a while to get the hour and day hash rate, but Zyber8s right there, and best share is 217.5k. So yeah, that's my review of the Zyber8s. Obviously we'll be doing a lot more videos coming in the future with these pieces of hardware. If you have any video ideas, please let me know and drop in the comments below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content like this.